Okay. All right. So, hi, Cathy. How about if you tell us a little bit now about your background and your age and what you're about these days and where you think the direction that you're moving towards?
Well, my age is 62, an age I never thought I would live to see, so I'm quite astonished every day. My name is Cathy Riley, and I'm from Bel Air, Maryland, which is in Harford County, not too far from Baltimore. And I had visions as a child of being a doctor, and so when I went to college, I was a biology major. But it seems that I was on campus in the middle of the Vietnam War, and I seemed to major more in politics than biology. So when it came time to graduate, I was in no position to go to med school. But I did end up working in. I did end up working in the city. A little music in the background. I did end up working in the city as a bacteriologist at City Hospital, and loved politics, and things were quite open in my county at the time, 1970, and so I ran for office. I was 23. I ran for an office called the Central Committee. I was a Democrat, and in Harford County, it's kind of a conservative sort of politician. I did not win. There were 13 of us, 12 men and me, and I was the last one on the ballot. And yet I came in next. I was a runner-up at age 23. So it was really kind of interesting, and instead of my being, quote, a loser, the newspapers and the political old boys decided I was a comer. How about that? So there's some people who kind of reached out to me and helped me along the way, and then 4 years later I ran for the House of Delegates, was elected, ran first, and so that kind of established me as a real politician, I guess, real politician, at least a successful politician, shall I say. And so I served in the House of Delegates for 8 years on the Environmental Matters Committee, so I actually did use all my biology background. And this was the 70s when we had clean air, clean water, all kinds of federal laws that were really finally moving into the environmental world. And because of that, I really had great luck in moving ahead in the House of Delegates. I moved right up in the power structure. I became chair of a committee before anybody in my freshman class did. And it was in the energy environmental world. So I got involved in solar power and wind power and all kinds of things that I just loved. And I did that the whole time I was in the legislature. In 1982, having a bit of chutzpah, I guess, I ran for the Senate against an incumbent Democrat. And he and I did not get along very well politically. And so I decided I was going to run against him and either win or go off and do something else. And I did win. So it was a bit of an upset, and it was kind of big across the state. And there was a fight for President of the Senate, and I was asked by one of the candidates for President of the Senate what I wanted, and I told him I wanted to be on the Budget Committee, which was the most important committee. And he asked me what else I wanted. And I learned right then, always have a backup. Always have a backup. I had no backup. And he said to me, well, you were on the Regulatory Committee, would you like to chair it? I said, oh yeah, okay. So I went to the Senate sitting in the back row as a backbencher chairing a committee in the Senate. It was quite astonishing. And then 4 years later, I went from the back bench to chair one of the 4 standing Senate committees, the Senate Finance Committee, which was also quite a step forward. And I was the first woman in the history of the General Assembly to chair a committee on insurance and banking and all those financial things that they never thought a woman could deal with. So that was kind of fun. And I did that for 4 years. And then I was 40-something years old, and I was making no money, and I decided I was going to stop. And I did. I stopped. Quite astonishing to some people. They thought I was at, my power peak and I was going to go forward, and it was time to go. I had some health issues and other things. So I went out and I started my own business and went to the University of Maryland, College Park, and worked there, and I'm actually still teaching there to this day, and I still have my own business. In the meantime, for 4 years, I went and helped Governor Glendening during session as his legislative liaison, and then he appointed me to the Public Service Commission. So I was on that as a commissioner and then as the chair of it until 2003. So since 2003, I've been doing my own business and teaching. And one of the things I've really begun to focus on is renewable energy, the whole solar, biomass stuff, but my main love is wind and wind power. So I have gotten involved in Denmark, have been to Denmark several times, and I finally have a client that I'm working with in Denmark, and we're trying to promote wind energy here, particularly offshore. So that's kind of my new love, and I've been traveling a lot and doing stuff I actually thought years and years ago I would love to do, which was travel. Well, at this late date in my life, I'm now doing what I thought I would do a long time ago. So.
Wow, how exciting!
Yeah.
How about
It is
telling us how we're connected here today? What have we just experienced over the last few days?
Well, at this moment, we're sitting in the living room of my mother's and my beach house in Bethany Beach, and the ocean is right there, looking a bit fierce right now. And I'm sitting with my good friend Nancy Cox Schaefer. I always have trouble with that last name. We graduated from college together in 1969, and we have been, for the last few years, coming together in September here at the beach in this house, a whole bunch of us from the class of '69, and sharing old memories, existing lives, and talking about futures together, and reestablishing ourselves into each other's lives, I think, in a really kind of fun way. The neat thing is that for 40 years, because this is our 40th anniversary, we have had at least once a year a lunch together. And some of our friends have kept that alive, even when we were not, you and I were not necessarily able to come to some of the things. But people have invested themselves now in reestablishing these ties and these relationships, and it's very exciting. It's very good, very healthy, and very healing. Very healing. This time, we have been confronted with one of our group's recent diagnosis of cancer, and it's multiple cancers in multiple places, and it doesn't sound very good. And she's taking chemotherapy, but for these few days, she buoyed herself up and put herself in the middle of us and let us embrace her, and she embraced us every day in amazing ways. And we have celebrated life, I think. It has really been quite something. I've found myself fighting tears on more than one occasion, because it has been quite glorious. Sad, but glorious. So, yeah. So 62 is really a cool time, I think.
Can you tell me more about that? Being 62, what makes it so cool?
For some reason, I really didn't like turning 40, and I didn't particularly like turning 50. But turning 60, I made a promise to myself in the new year of the year we were going to turn 60, that I was going to finally stop and take some time for myself, and promise myself that I was giving myself a gift a month. And I did, literally, every month, do something that was different and special. One month it was it was February, a diamond and emerald ring for myself, little one, but what I could afford. And then I've had some foot issues, and my March birthday, actually my birthday is in March. That birthday I gave myself a foot surgery where they severed a nerve that had been bothering me for 20-something years. So people say, oh, that's no gift. Oh, yes, it's a great gift. I travel. My gift, the last gift of that year was a trip to Egypt. So it was and we came together. We had a birthday party for ourselves up in Frederick, or Newmarket, I think it was, and we all got together and had a great lunch and birthday. And then we had our first get-together here in September, and just a wonderful revitalization. I don't know. I felt maybe like I'd started living again. Mm-hmm. That the old stuff was ruts, that scars and scabs and stuff from all of those years and all that work and relationships, some good, some bad. And it was sort of like, okay, I'm going to begin again. And for me, it's been phenomenal, because even my work has begun as I said, new. So old friends with renewed vigor, and seeing us in our new situations, and some have had some difficult times. I guess we all have had some more than others. And I don't feel alone.
You don't
And
feel alone. Right.
There was some times when I really felt alone, particularly when my health stuff was bothering me.
Right.
And now I feel like there's people I can call. I don't have to, but they're there. And you don't have to kind of explain who you are. Oh, hi, this is Cathy. I haven't talked to you in 40 years, but can you give me a hand? With you, Nancy, hey, you know, do what you do for me, you know. And we all make each other laugh. Our friend who's dying entitled this get-together, our Laugh Fest. Isn't that cool?
This is great.
And it was. It has been.
I noticed one of the things that we talked about over the weekend was this idea of being in our 60s and actually the terminology seniors. And we noticed that there was a lot of resistance to that title of senior. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think to the extent senior implies wisdom, or the sense of transition. You know, senior in high school, you're moving on to something. Senior in college, you're moving on to something. If you think senior life is moving on to death, I probably don't like it. But if it is moving on to continued wisdom and this having some time now in your life to reestablish and go live for however long we're blessed to live, then I'm okay with it. But I don't like that concept of preparing to die. It's okay to prepare to die, but you should be living. And I think I didn't do that for some time. So I think that's part of why I'm very happy now, because I feel like I'm, not dying. I feel like I'm living, and if I die, fine, but, I expect I will.
Okay.
I think so. I think that's the plan.
So what are maybe some of your concerns moving on here, and what are some of the things that you're really looking forward to in your elder years?
Well, I think the biggest concern I have right now is my mother is 86, and she and I, my mother and father, never particularly made a lot of money, but they worked very hard, and she was in real estate. My father loved to rehab old houses in his spare time because he had otherwise worked. So every night he would come home from work and eat and then go work on one of the old houses, and over time, over about 40 years, they developed a lot of rental properties. This is one of them. And then when he died, we put everything in a trust, and it's my mother and I and our attorney, and so I've become sort of the partner in this. And I've taken over a lot of what he did, and then now a lot of what she did, because she's getting a bit more frail. But in June, she quit her business. She gave up her last client. So she's 86 and was still working. So now we're dealing with her acknowledgement that maybe she's getting older, and she's never liked the word senior or elder or anything. So, she's 86. So why would I at 62? So this summer we've had some things, and we've had to walk through the deaths of friends for her and the deaths of old traditions. Labor Day, she'd gone away with people. There were 16 couples, 8 couples, 16 people, for 58 years. And this year they had decided, the last few that are left, there are about 4 of them now left, 5 are left, that they weren't going to get together. And she was really upset. In July, I couldn't figure out what was wrong. She was just sleeping all the time and seemed to be depressed, but I couldn't figure out why. She did have a bit of a health issue. She had a low-grade fever that turned out to be a bad tooth, so that was okay. But we started talking about it, and I finally said, Mom, why don't we start new traditions? Let's look at things instead of looking backwards, let's look forward. Which is what I think I just explained. I think I started doing when I turned 60. So we applied that to her, and she did a new Labor Day tradition, and she had an excellent time. And I actually had fun listening to them talk about next year, what they were going to do differently.
Wow.
So at 86, when you can talk about next year, that's great.
Right.
And I think in July she was thinking there is no next year. So
Well, how wonderful
does
that,
that I don't,
yeah, that's great. How wonderful that you have the insight and the compassion to start that conversation with her. It makes me wonder how many adult children will approach that subject with their elder parents.
But she and I are engaged at many levels. She's my mother, I'm her daughter. We're business partners in the sense that we do these things, these properties, and we have renters and complaints and repairmen we have to call, and did you do this, and I'll do that, and so there's a lot of that kind of give and take. And then it's this sort of, there is this little transition where I'm beginning to be more parental, and she doesn't like that. But I'm doing the grocery shopping more now, and I'm doing more of the cooking and things because it's just a lot for her to do. And she can't drive outside the town. I mean, she doesn't want to, and I don't really want her to, but she's still driving in town, and she takes care of my dog, and that's wonderful, and she drives them around to the bank, and people just laugh. They see them coming, and they have a wonderful time. She takes them into the bank, and the people in there just love him, and I would no more take my dog into the bank, but she gets away with it. So we have that kind of relationship, and it's in transition. So it's that kind of dance that we all do with other people, and it's changing. And she's got some anger that's directed at me now a bit. So the conversation, in many ways, I brought up because almost in self-defense, because I didn't want her to continue to be getting old and feeling old, and then me taking the brunt of her anger because she's getting old. So for me, it was trying new things. Let's see if we can try some other things that keep her feeling vital when she is less vital, but making sure she still feels vital. So in that sense, that's kind of what we're doing, I think, at our age, 62, trying to transition into our new role. I'm still working. A lot of our friends aren't. And I think some of them are seeking still what they're going to fill their lives with. Did you get that sense?
Mm-hmm.
They
Yes.
didn't talk about it a lot, but
Right.
I think a couple of them are.
Right.
So maybe next time we get together, that'll be part of the conversation of how you fill those times. And some people are beginning to lose spouses. One of the women has lost her husband, and another one was very worried about our test results that are coming. And so I think we've created our own support group, and didn't even know we were doing it. It was just fun, and it is still fun.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my mother.
Very good.
So that when she dies, she will not have looked at the last year or two or however many she has left as totally downhill. Keep her going uphill as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that helps me. So it's very selfish.
I was just
on my
getting
part.
ready to ask that. What are you seeing in her that you're learning for yourself for future years?
Well, I think it is that you have to keep doing stuff. You have to invest yourself in life. And if you sit back as an older person and say, okay, now I've done my thing, now it's time for you all to take care of me, children, grandchildren, whatever, you're going to be very disappointed.
Right.
Life is to be lived every day, fiercely, if you can, live it.
Right.
I went through a period in my life, and I mentioned a health issue. I had nerve damage in my feet, and it took me some time before they found out what, and they began a series of operations, which have now been 15 operations. And for a couple of years, I literally couldn't walk. I was on crutches or in wheelchairs. And I was 36 and 7 when that happened. And I felt like I went from being 35 to 85 overnight. And I hated it, and I hated being in a wheelchair. And ever after, I learned, if you ever talk to anybody in a wheelchair, do not look down on them. Bend down, get down on your knee, look them square in the eye, because it is so hard. Still trying to feel vital and good and live, and you're in a wheelchair.
Wow.
So when you engage, I mean, that's what I learned. When you engage someone who's got a handicap or disability, whatever it is, sit next to them, do something, but look them in the eyes squarely so that they're feeling whole, you know?
Right.
So I learned so much. I learned so much. And that I've been trying to apply now to friends of my mother's who are having their first leg pain and are basket cases, and I just give them the hardest time, like, well, what's wrong with you? You know, and try and move them. So I did learn a lot. But you have to live. You have to cherish every day. And when I roll out of bed and I can put 2 feet on the ground and I can stand up, it's like, whoa.
Right. You gave me this wonderful few sentences from a Scottish or Danish philosopher. I don't know if you can do that on the spot here, but
I have a very good friend. This is another new thing. I mean, October 2006. Our old AFS student who graduated with us from high school from Denmark came to see us. I hadn't seen her in 40 years, almost 40 years. And we've become great friends, and here I am starting this wind thing. So every time I go to Denmark, we're together. And then she's coming over here next summer for a reunion. And that's been a whole unbelievable kind of thing. Anyway, she's a Lutheran minister. When I knew her, she was an atheist. So we've spent a lot of time talking about religion and God and is he really? And she went from not believing to preaching. So it's been great, and that's helped me a whole lot to connect with her at that level. Anyway, the other day I emailed her about what we were doing this weekend and the concern with our friend who is facing this huge battle and fighting it fiercely, I might say. And so my friend mailed me an email and said how wonderful it is that we're together, that she just thought it was meant to be, and I think that's probably true. And then she said a quote from a wonderful Danish philosopher whose name I do not know, but I will find out one day, that in life there is death, and in death there is life. But perhaps there is more life in life when there is death. And at 5 a.m. the other day, Friday morning I think it was, I read that. And I was wide awake for the rest of the day, I think. Most of the day. Pondering that. And I actually think that's quite an astonishing statement.
I do know that it has had a profound effect on me, and I plan to incorporate it in some of the work that I will be doing.
Well, we probably ought to find out who it is and give him his
think,
credit.
Yes, I think that's a must.
I will. I'll try. I'm sure she knows. But it's true that you appreciate things. Like I appreciate walking. I appreciate after I had that nerve cut when I was 60, I could wear real shoes. I hadn't worn anything but sneakers with arch supports since I was 37.
Wow.
I wore black Reeboks to Bill Clinton's inaugural ball in Washington, D.C.
My.
So I appreciate shoes. Isn't that funny? I used to love those spiked heels.
Right.
I had so many, and one by one I threw them away, and I kept one pair, my favorite pair. The pair I was walking when my foot went bad the very first time. So yeah, we appreciate things more when we don't have them, and when we can get them back, I think we should just celebrate. So
Right.
I've been trying to do that.
That's wonderful.
And I'm just so. I don't ever say this well enough to you guys, but I'm most appreciative that you choose to celebrate life with me. And I don't say that very well. I get embarrassed. Saying thank you and things is hard for me. But is that Irish? Is that the Irish
loving
thing?
you
Is that
every.
the Irish thing?
That could be the
Yeah.
Irish thing.
Yeah.
But it certainly has been wonderful, and you're so
Yeah.
gracious in offering your
Oh, no.
your space and your
It's my
loving place
pleasure.
here.
It is my pleasure.
So,
It really is.
well, I think we did pretty good. This was our very
we
first
do?
interview, and you certainly did well. And I think that this will be the beginning of whatever this is going to evolve into. And I thank you so very much.
Well, I wish for you only the best, and that your life is truly fulfilled, and you have astonishing gifts, and you share them. And many people don't share their gifts, and you do. And you celebrate life, too. I think that's wonderful.
Well, thank you
I have
very much.
enjoyed very much getting to know you
Yes,
better.
and that feeling
know,
is so mutual.
Because we never, we always sort of danced around each other. I don't know that we ever really had much chance when we were together at college.
Right.
We saw each other, but I don't think we
That's right.
engaged a lot.
That's
so
right.
This has been great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another gift.
Another gift.
Another
Yay.
gift. Life is full of them. Every
Okay.
day there are gifts.
Yeah.
We just have to look. Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, again, thank you so much.
you're most welcome. You're most
And
welcome. Let me know what else I can do.
okay. All right. Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Good. Go get them, Tiger.